back. Now we turn our focus to the big focus at this hour. We are going to talk about the issue of misleading baby product ads. Now, senior members of the Indian Academy of Pediatrics have flagged off a concern with regards to spurious baby products, and the Academy, in fact, had already released a detailed guideline on complementary baby food. And the ads that make tall claims about what good nutrition is for children is often in direct contravention with the IAP guidelines. We will discuss this issue in detail with the domain experts on the issue. So the question that we are raising is, are we falling for misleading baby food ads? What are the red flags we need to watch out for? Are social media influencers operating without any regulation whatsoever in endorsing these products, which, far from being nutritious or constructive, could actually be damaging or harmful for your children? So we will try and understand all of this. Here, the experts on the issue. Let me introduce, joining us here on the program is Dr. Sameer Dalwai, leading pediatrician. He's a development pediatrician and also a senior member of the Indian Academy of Pediatrics. Dr. Shikha Sharma, founder of One Health and nutrition ambassador. Very good to have the two of you here on the Big Focus. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we go to the experts, let's have my colleague Raksha take us through some of the pointers which Raksha and I got together, and we actually went through those guidelines which the Academy has put out, and we tried to sort of take out the important parts, Raksha, and you will take us through those pointers on what the guidelines say about complementary food for infants. Over to you.
That's right, Afrida. Just for our viewers, let me tell you that the Indian Academy of Pediatrics has put together this guidebook which talks about complementary feeding, which essentially is feeding of an infant beyond 6 months of age. Now, there's a critical window of opportunity for growth and development that a bunch of pediatrics who've put this report together have identified, saying that during this period, of course, from 0 to 6 months of age, the child is on mother's breast milk, or is rather advised to be on that. And from 6 months to up to 2 age, what kind of food should the child be fed, and everything about starting from the consistency of the food to the kind of food, solid food, semi-solid food, everything is there in the report. So I'm going to quickly take you through some of the important pointers that we noticed. One is that when you introduce suitable semi-solid food, it should be a balanced diet. It should have enough of carbohydrates, vitamins, necessary minerals, as well as proteins and fibers. Now, there should the young parents should avoid delay in starting this complementary feeding. Ideally, it should start from after 6 months of age of the infants. Then you should avoid, of course, outside artificial, any kind of packaged food which has preservatives. All those things should be avoided. No junk food for the babies. Avoid foods with excess of sugar, salt and trans fatty acids. Avoid ultra processed and refined foods also for these kids. Now, bottle feeding, as per this report, has disadvantages and should be avoided. And if at all, whenever you're feeding the child, you should avoid having a screen present, which I think is very important for young parents to note, especially, with this excessive usage of cell phones or television. A screen should be avoided when you're feeding a young infant who is from 6 months to 2 years of age. You should also not try to force feed your child. Avoid food that might have the risk of choking the child also. Now, again, this was earlier called weaning, and the new term for it is complementary feeding, and
yes,
this is a very important guidebook that has been issued, which has
this is
all
very
of these
critical
pointers.
information, Raksha, that you've shared with us for all the new mothers. Times have changed. New kind of guidelines are always updated, as I believe, by the Indian Academy of Pediatricians. It's very important to pay attention to these specific guidelines. Coming to you first, Dr. Dalwai, and I read your tweet earlier this morning where you are talking about spurious baby products, surrogate marketing of formula and complementary foods, and for infants and children, which you feel, the guidelines are, these products are not in line always with the guidelines that the Academy has put out. Now, where exactly is the problem? What are your concerns with regards to spurious baby products?
Yeah, Ms. Afrida, first and foremost, thank you for taking up such an important issue at prime time. The credit actually must go to Dr. Piyush Gupta, our immediate past president, who flagged off 105 parental guidelines in the last year written by expert pediatricians all over the country, which are available on our website, iapindia.org, which is the website of the Indian Academy of Pediatrics, whom I represent. And also to my dear friend, Dr. Satish Tiwari, who forwarded me yesterday an advertisement, we very clearly an advertisement by an influencer on social media where she talks about some pediatrician told her that XYZ package is the best, or XYZ box that she bought from the market is the best food. So we were not very happy with that, because no pediatricians support any of these branded products. In fact, the Indian Academy of Pediatrics in its guidelines has clearly said that we promote homemade food, because these boxed foods and brand foods have far more disadvantages than advantages. So I'm happy that you're taking this up right now.
Yes, so that is the idea, to get our viewers to be aware about these pitfalls. Dr. Shikha Sharma, is complementary baby food harmful to begin with, or is there a way a mother can decide what should be given to an infant and what should not be given?
See, if we look at complementary baby food, it is really a packaged food. And I firmly believe that there is nothing better than fresh food prepared at home with natural ingredients, prepared with your own, fresh ingredients. Now, the problem with this complementary food and the way the influencers are misusing is they give the impression that a mother is doing something better for a child if she's picking up these complementary foods which are packaged. Now, I'll give you a small example. Any complementary food would have ingredients which would be made from cereals, but these cereals will go bad, so they have to have some preservatives. Similarly, the colors which you see in a complementary food which are packaged are not the natural colors, because naturally the food, if you keep, it turns very dark brown, and if you process it, it turns very dark brown. So this white, milky white color which they get is because of certain colors or processes which they have used. All foods, all of them, if you see, to make it very palatable, have a higher amount of sugar in various forms, which is not required for the baby. If today you take your child to a pediatrician, the pediatrician will never tell you to use sugar and salt. They will say you can give fruit, you can give stewed apples, you can give natural grains, you can give khichdi. They will never suggest put salt and sugar in your baby's diet. But all these products have sugar in it. So what I'm trying to say is that it is the convenience food for the children, which actually should not be the mainstay of weaning food. It can be only used by the mother if she's traveling. Suppose if she's traveling somewhere and she's not able to arrange fresh food, then it becomes some sort of a backup plan for her. But unfortunately today, this has become the main plan. Mothers are using this as the main food, and the backup food is being used as fresh food. So, and secondly, I am so glad you picked this up, because influencers, without understanding science, without understanding nutrition, they just get paid by the companies, and because they have followers, the followers follow them without understanding that this is harmful for the child.
Yes, Dr. Dalwai, I want to pick up from that point that do you think the Indian Academy of Pediatrics can do something about it? The fact that there needs to be certain regulation when it comes to these ads. Now, when it comes to social media, that's another demon altogether now. You have every second or third person becoming an influencer with huge following. They can be bought over by brands, and these brands are then pushing their products to viewers. A new mother can fall into the trap. So is the Academy also deliberating on how to sort of restrict these kind of malpractices?
Yes, all the time. In fact, we've written to the government many times, and the Minister of Women and Child has taken up these parental guidelines which were just published. And in fact, we are very happy that the government has taken this very positively. However, I feel eventually jisko hum jan jagruti kehte hain, public awareness, which you are doing right now through your show, and I thank you for that, is very important. Because why do people buy these packaged foods eventually? Because they somehow are made to feel that that is better for the child. And in one way, they fall for it because the child does eat a larger quantity of it. And as my colleague doctor just mentioned right now, those foods are made perhaps sweeter or perhaps more tastier, if I may say so. So the child falls for it and eats more. My teacher, Dr. Amdekar, always says, why are you worried about feeding the child more? The child who is born, a 5-day-old child, feeds from the breast as much as she or he wants. Why would a 2-year-old child not know how much he or she wants? So it's about us telling the parents at the same time. That's why these guidelines have been brought up by IAP for the parents, by the Indian Academy of Pediatrics, that to let the child eat as much as he wants. Let the child choose how much he wants, but let the parent choose the menu. So it's very important, as my colleague said, to put the right amount of proteins and nutrients and micronutrients and carbohydrates and fat all together. And let me tell you, our Indian balanced diet is the best. We don't need anything else because you won't have only one food item. You will have a chapati, you will have a rice, you will have some non-veg, or even you will have 2 or 3 vegetables, you will have a cereal, you will have curd, you will have a papad. Everything is covered in the typical Indian diet. And hence, I would request all the parents who are watching this show that please, please, please prepare the food at home, which is the best for the child, which you serve the food made at home for the baby, which is the most nutritious and the most healthy, and definitely is going to make your child very intelligent if you keep the food, if you made at home. It also teaches the child to regulate. The child may eat as much as he wants. It's also a wrong practice to make the child, oh, finish everything on your plate. Don't leave everything back. Because that actually makes the child force feed, and that is now leading to an epidemic of obesity. So let the child choose the quantity, let the parents choose the menu. That's what Dr. Amdekar says.
That's very interesting. It's often the other way around, isn't it, with Indian mothers? I mean, we tend to force feed a lot, and a lot of in terms of new mothers, they do know very little. They're exploring, experimenting, learning by doing. But your advice and the kind of guidelines that we are also mentioning through what is published by the Indian Academy of Pediatrics, this useful information, which, like you said, must go out. Now, I want to bring to our viewers' notice, the fact that this is a broad-based discussion. It's not just about baby food. There's been a number of, and we are playing it out through graphics on our screens, a number of instances of misleading ads, whether it is Dabur Honey, whether it is Patanjali, whether it is Maggi noodles or Horlicks for that matter. There have been a number of controversies. So there you have it on your screens. The Advertising Standards Association has called many of these ads misleading. So there are Food and Safety Standards Authority which need to monitor these things. But today we are in a world where social media is dominating our lives. I would like to remind our viewers about the controversy around the Maggi instant noodles. That it had in fact an A-lister like Madhuri Dixit endorsing that product. There was an FIR in that case way back in 2015 for misleading advertisements. Neither the Food Safety Standards Act 2006 nor the subsequent guidelines and regulations issued by Food Safety and Standards Authority of India have any specific mention of celebrity endorsers, and the stars such as Madhuri Dixit who act in these advertisements do it for a fee. So clearly, Shikha Sharma, this issue beyond just baby food, for all food items, we still don't have, the regulations in place. In certain cases, we haven't got our act together.
You're absolutely right. See, there are a couple of things which are extremely important. The first thing is that in any food connected to children, there has to be a higher regulation. Number two, when people are talking about science, the person who's talking about it should be a qualified person. Today, we have so many quacks in the market who pose as qualified people. They go on social media and they are paid by product companies. So I think there are two things. First is we need the association of product associations to self-regulate themselves also, because food is an ethical matter and child food is a very highly ethical matter. Secondly, I think even in children's food, celebrity endorsements or any kind of endorsements should not be allowed. Because many times the people, they love the celebrity. They follow them. So it's not as easy as to say don't follow because they love the celebrity. They think whatever the celebrity is saying is the gospel. So I think when it comes to certain critical areas, these endorsements should not be allowed.
Recently, Dr. Dalwai, there was a case with regards to Nestle. Now, I'm asking you this as a doctor. There is an attempt always, isn't it, to rope in the pediatricians to endorse a certain product. How does somebody like you stay away from those endorsements, from getting into the trap of these brands who would be probably willing to pay you some amount of money to get it endorsed by someone of your stature?
Well, let me be very frank. There's a law against it as well. And Indian Academy of Pediatrics was at the forefront in the 1990s to bring out the Infant Milk Substitute Act by Parliament. And in fact, this act was a landmark legislation because it prevents the sponsorship or advertising of any of these products by doctors or to healthcare workers. So unfortunately, now there is this spurious marketing. And as you said, the social media is another demon altogether. And this is why this kind of a surrogate spurious, and that's what I put in my tweet. Please don't fall for this surrogate spurious marketing through influencers or through other parts by these companies. It's very important to understand this. But, I just wanted to flag off another point. Look at how the technology on one hand is favorable and the other hand is a destroyer. I have, instances of 2.5, 3-year-old children ordering food off the food apps. I don't want to name but you know what I'm saying? So they just go on XYZ and they order food. On one hand, parents are so worried and distraught about getting the right calories and the right vitamins and the right micronutrients. And here's a kid ordering whatever they want on the mobile app, and they even pay for it online, and the food gets delivered, and the parents who may not be at home don't even know what was delivered to their child when they were not there. I think it's a very important issue, and we must educate parents all the time.
Yes, and very interesting. And I take a note of what you said as a mother of growing up children, that yes, they have exposure to all kinds of ads when they go online, and they might fall for this trap. And this is a serious issue. As parents, as adults, we have to be aware, we have to be conscious, and as far as possible, spread the information like we tried to do today. Dr. Dalwai and Dr. Shikha Sharma, thank you so much for joining us here on The Big Focus.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Let's take a very short break here. Do stay with us. News and updates continue on the other side.